Well, it was quite the week. The biggest moment was the strike on nuclear facilities by the US around the time that this program went to air last week. Then a ceasefire was negotiated and breached before Donald Trump, on the way to NATO, was involved in what I'm sure will become a historic moment.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Well, from the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's point of view, he was quite comfortable with those comments from Donald Trump. Australia wanted to see an end to Iran's nuclear program and believes the strikes have set that program back, and they wanted to see peace. Anthony Albanese was criticised for taking 24 hours to respond to the attacks. I understand the National Security Committee of Cabinet met on this last Monday morning before the PM made his statements on it. The government knew the US was planning the strikes, but weren't aware when they would occur, is my understanding. In this context, Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles travelled to NATO, and Anthony Albanese, who had considered attending after failing to meet Donald Trump at the G7, didn't go. The Indo-Pacific Four, IP4, Australia, Japan, Korea and New Zealand weren't in the NATO meeting itself, and an audience with Donald Trump at this forum was by no means guaranteed. During this meeting, NATO won guarantees for countries to increase defence spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. And this includes a commitment to raise spending to 3.5% on core defence expenditure and 1.5% on investments loosely connected to security infrastructure. The Australian government has committed to raising defence spending to 2.3% of GDP. The coalition promised to raise it, you'll recall, during the election campaign to 3%. And US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth recently asked Richard Marles for Australia to raise it to 3.5%. But the Prime Minister during the week was adamant there wouldn't be some sudden massive increase in defence spending. Australia may spend more, but it will be based on need.
Well, we have increased our defence investment. We've increased it by $57 billion over the medium term and by more than $10 billion in the short term as well. Now, what we're doing is making sure that Australia has the capability that we need. That's what we're investing in. We'll continue to do that, invest in our capability and invest in our relationships.
So Australia believes it's doing its bit on defence and will continue to do so. It will be manufacturing missiles by the end of the year. There's also a belief in the government that some of the declarations by the US and NATO countries around their defence spending is overblown, that the countries get to 5% of GDP by including things like roads and bridges in their spending.